And we are live. Hello, good afternoon, good morning, or good night, wherever you are in the world. It's an absolute pleasure for you to be joining. For us to be introducing ourselves right at the top of this webinar. Hope you're doing very, very well. We'll leave a bit of time for people to join in before we get into the nitty gritty. But I do see that some people have started to chat inside inside LinkedIn and YouTube, messaging at the chats at the moment. So yeah, we are live on LinkedIn and on YouTube as well. And yes, this event is being recorded. To obtain the recording of this, if you can't make it for the entire webinar, you can sign up and we'll be sending you the webinar following that. So you have to go to zoomcharts.com and then navigate to the webinars and you can sign up and we'll be sending you the recording following the stream, probably tomorrow. Yes, thank you. And we do have colleagues of ours in the chats as well. So yeah, please get engaged with the chat as well. Ask any questions. But without further ado, it's my absolute pleasure to be welcoming my two guests on today's stream. My good colleagues, Una and Ivis. Hello.
Hello. Hello.
Hey
Hi
man, how
there.
you doing?
Going well. Thank you so much. How are you two doing?
Excited to be here.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
amazing. Well, me too. Well, Una, since you're so excited, Una is our product manager here at ZoomCharts. How long have you been here now, Una?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that? Kind of didn't
How
catch.
long have you been here?
Oh, for more than 5 years.
More
Yeah,
than five
it's been
years.
a
And
while.
counting, and counting. So
Yeah.
it's a pleasure to have you here. Gundas in the chat says hi and probably having a coffee, getting well into the night and working hard as usual. And Una, if you can tell, people, there's some things that I don't know about you as well. And so, I have to think off the top of my head. But what has been the highlight of 2024? And you can't say vacation.
Well, you stole my answer then. No, I mean, probably, yeah, working of a couple of exciting ideas on the product side this year. Scatter obviously is the one, right? But
Yes.
we are also working on some new ideas on the background. So
Oh,
I would say, yeah, I would say looking into new visuals. That's really
that's your
what.
passion, that's your drive, and
Yeah.
that's the best thing about 2024, into 2025 and onwards as well. And thank you so much. And my good friend and colleague, Ivis, senior product expert here as well. Many in the community will know this familiar face, as well as Federico Pastor, that's in the chat as well. Ivis, tell a little bit about yourself for people that don't know much.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know, my name is Ivis. I'm senior product expert here at ZoomCharts. I've been with the company for over 7 years, and that's about how much I've been spending time with Power BI. Right. So I've been playing around with different visuals, training customers, training the community, just trying to understand how we can improve the whole ecosystem of Power BI with great visuals. And definitely, I'd say Scatterplot is one, if you ask me the same, right? It's definitely one of the highlights as well, primarily because it's been a visual that has been very deep in the back in works, right, for a little bit over 2 years now, because we started off with just an idea, just trying to figure things out.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, there's a lot of hurdles that we had to jump to make the visual what it is right now, and I'm properly excited about it.
Me too. Well, we'll be getting to that in a moment. A little bit about me. I'm Lee, as you can see my name down there, and I live in the beautiful country of Latvia, which is where ZoomCharts is based. I've been here for 11 years. I've been working with multiple SaaS products and tech industries, and also the music industry. But I'm on my own journey as well to explore data and decision centric industries as well. And so it's a personal pleasure for me to be on this journey with you, both, as well as the rest of the team that we have here as well. So, I'm equally excited as well to be diving into this along with everybody that's in the chat as well. As I mentioned, I'm from the UK. I didn't mention that, but I'm from the UK, but live in Latvia. I can see that we do have Carlos from Colombia. If you are from a different place other than Latvia, please comment where you're coming from as well. That would be super great to know where people are are tuning in from. And also, if you are jumping between places as well, put an emoji of how you're feeling today. I think, yeah, Ibis, what emoji would you be?
Uh, I don't really know. Usually, I'd say probably gonna be the wide-eyed, opened eyes or the googly eyes. The reason for that is because whenever I look at the visuals, the main thing that I'm looking forward is how I can sort of impress myself with the visuals, right? Not necessarily in a good way, maybe it's a bad way, but I'm always looking for something new in a visual. So
Right.
googly eyes is always the way to go.
We have people from Paris, Bangladesh, amazing. Turkey. This is amazing. This is what it's all about, right? It's it's connecting not only data but also people together as well. And Una, what emoji would you be?
I somehow imagined that today would be the sunny one, the sun.
It's for people that don't know, in Latvia it's 5 p.m. right now, and it's pouring with rain. But thankfully, we have the sunshine and the ray that is Una joining us as well. So,
Absolutely.
beaming smiles across the world right now. So, yeah, I really appreciate it. Great that everyone's chatting. So, I mean, let's talk about what we're actually going to be doing today. Not just getting to know each other, but we have an agenda as well. So, we actually are here to discuss decision-centric visuals and why they matter for data today and in the future. And ZoomCharts has been on that journey for 10, 11 years now, working with multiple companies in multiple industries around the world to deliver the most intuitive and exploratory visuals for anybody to get involved with. And that's why, like, I'm super happy because I thought that I wouldn't be interested in data my entire life until I got my hands on a Power BI report within the company and started to explore this data. And then, of course, we've got the reveal of our Scatter Pro visual that we're all eager and excited about. And Iris and Una will be taking us through demonstrations on multiple cases that might apply to you. But of course, we do have a Q&A session. So if there's something that's in the back of your mind that you're thinking, can it, will it? Well, we're here to answer that question either during this Q&A at the very end. Somebody might be able to explain something in the chat as well. But if your if your question can't be answered within this time, then you can reach out to us as well. You can either reach me directly on LinkedIn, Iris and Una, we're all here. We also have an email address. It's webinars@zoomcharts.com. Or Una, we can message support at zoomcharts.com as well, right?
Always.
Oh, absolutely. We got UK proud Spanish national here. We've got people from Southport but based in Amsterdam, 9 years. Amazing, great. Yeah, I'm one of those immigrants as well. Proud of being an immigrant and living in Latvia for 11. But as I mentioned, that I've been on this journey, this personal journey myself, and professionally as well, to understand what it's all about. Because my background has been in the creative field as well as the tech field, but mostly I'm a creative person, and I really struggled to understand how to not only look at data but present data and actually understand what it actually can mean, not only for me but my colleagues and for a company and for companies and partners around the world as well. And so the big topic and the question that we actually want to be answering today, hopefully we're going to be answering that with our scatter visual, but why decision-centric visuals matter in data analysis today, and where are we going with those in the future as well? And so I'm going to pose this question to Una because Una's been working on this scatter visual for a number of years as well as Ivis. But what are we seeing change in the industries and the markets today, moving from the data-driven side of keywords, and also everyone used to be data-driven, driven by data, but we're in a place right now where we actually have to be making decisions. And how can a visual allow somebody, anybody, including myself or anybody in the chat, be able to make those decisions intuitively?
Yeah, so the keyword in decision centric visual is obviously the decision, right? And I think to be able to make decision, you need to ask questions and get the answers, right? And the keyword in this again, I think, is the answers, not the answer, right? Because currently in the industry, I think there's a trend in many companies that you have a specific report to answer specific set of questions. And the moment the question change or the person looking at the report change, it doesn't
Mm,
work anymore. You kind of need to create, and they ask the whole report team to create a new report or a new visual. So when you ask me what decision-centric visual means, it means that it's a visual that allows you to ask questions and answer those questions. So it's a visual that allows you to interact with it, to drill into data, to look around, to look at the context. So it's a decision that kind of brings or breathes the life into the data. Let's
right.
put it like that.
Yeah, it's so true because I've had an experience this week speaking with a client of ours who is in a situation where they have multiple project managers in multiple states, and they just get the call and said, "I need this answer," and they are just copying and pasting. They don't have time; they need an answer within 2 or 3 hours, and they're copying and pasting a page from one report just to answer that specific question. And is that intuitive? Is that efficient for a company? Can we give power to anybody in the company with a decision centric visual, regardless of what it is? Maybe it's a pie, or whether it's a bar chart or a waterfall or something like that. Ivis, how do you feel about being about empowering people to be able to make those decisions based on a particular report and a visual?
Well, what Una already mentioned is sort of the key point of the whole thing, right? But what I've noticed as well from the industry is that a lot of people are sort of very focused on the part of making a visual just because we need to make a visual, to represent the data. And I think that's part of the reason why the sort of the data-driven approach isn't working anymore, because we were at that stage where data driven basically meant that there is data, we need to showcase it something, well, because the whole ecosystem is doing that, that's what other companies are doing, and that's what we're going to
Mhm.
do. But
Right.
they didn't put a lot of effort into understanding why are we doing this. And this is why I think a sort of a switch needs to happen, where decision centric is the primary key point, where you want to create a visual that allows you to sort of have a holistic overview of what's happening,
Yeah.
but it still has those capabilities that allow you to, like we already mentioned, right? You can either drill down or zoom or whatever happens, but it allows you to basically focus on those nuanced points, which tells you, okay, so this is where the problem is. Now, how do we investigate it, or why is it there in the first place? That's a
Hmm.
different thing. But that's why you have other visuals, which basically allow you to extend all that story. So, what I'm thinking is going to happen inevitably, and that's already what's happening in the industry, is the visuals are becoming more of a navigating tool rather than just purely visualization, because that's
I
what we
love
were used to having, right? The data
that.
visual is there to visualize it.
Right.
Whereas what I think people are starting to understand is that those visuals need to be the storytellers. Sure, so you're basically the narrator. You tell them what to do, but the visual shows you how that sort of a journey happened over time, or how do we got to this point. It doesn't necessarily have to be a single visual. Of course, it's a combination of multiple visuals. There's cards and everything. You
Mhm.
you basically embrace that story through the visuals, and that's what I think is going to be happening with data visualization in general. We kind of have to switch that focus from just creating visuals because to creating visuals based on purpose.
I love that idea, and also like as Ivis and Uno and myself were talking as well. Please get involved in the chat and on YouTube and on LinkedIn, as I mentioned as well. And you can just say agreed, thumbs up, emojis, disagree, or how do you feel about where the future of data visualization, data in general, is going at this moment in time as well. And how Ivis or Una, this is open to you before we get into the scatter. How can a business and a company make the first step in the context of what you just mentioned? How can they make a first step into becoming decision centric over just being data driven?
I'd say the first step is kind of identifying the primary questions you have on every single day basis, right? Because that's the core. I think every single visual and every single report that you build needs to cover the core needs primarily. Everything else afterwards comes as an add-on or a way on how to enhance it, right? So the first point is identify the questions that you're going to have need to answer basically every single day. Once you start to go through these in daily meetings or weekly meetings, you're going to notice a trend happening that as soon as you go through those, a part of the team is going to be like, okay, we covered those, now let's get back to work. But there's going to be a part of the team who are going to have additional questions. But why did it happen? Or, but what happens if we, sort of add another dimension and look at it from this perspective?
Hmm.
So that's when you start to kind of build upon that story, and the visuals or the reports that you create are becoming more decision centric because they're coming out of questions, not just, well, we need to look at, the total sales. We all get that we need to look at total sales, right? But there are
Yeah.
so many other aspects of it that we don't kind of take into account. And I think that's the primary sort of goal you have to do initially. Establish the initial questions, and then in everyday situations, try to listen to the actual audience and what they're looking for, how they're looking at this, whether this makes sense or not, and just adapt to the actual situation.
So I have a question for you. You mentioned total sales, right?
Yeah.
What if there was a company and they have a bunch and ton of customers and clients that have invoices being sent out daily, weekly, monthly? Maybe it's recurring revenue as well. What if the question is, well, what is actually going on with those sales? Where are the problems that they are having with maybe um, particular clients that maybe aren't paying in time? I wonder, Ivis, if you actually have a visual that you could actually share and show on screen that would actually allow. Oh wow, look at that! That's
Oh
amazing.
wow, look at that! How convenient.
Voila. Okay, this looks beautiful and colorful already. But Ivis, tell us what we're looking at right now.
Sure. The base principle is very simple. So what you see here is basically a slimmed down version of what we created for a customer as well. So, and this is one of the reasons why the scatter plot is working so great in this particular use case. So in this case, what we built is the scatter plot is basically displaying different deals that are happening over time. And the way we're sort of dimension that we're looking into this is the actual renewal date. So there are three different segments. So whether we're going over 180 days, so basically you have half a year until you have to renew that deal. And then you have two other groups. One is lower than 180 days. This goes down to a zero, and then everything that goes below zero, well, this is where somebody has messed up or there have been some other complications. Now, the reason why the scatter plot works perfectly in this particular case is because, first of all, it allows you to see, like I said, the overall holistic overview of what's happening over there. So we
Right.
can see that most of the deals are in this segment right here, but at the same time, we can see a couple of outliers. And the way on how we wanted to build the scatter plot in general is to, like I said, to allow the visual to control the situation and for you to ask questions. So my first question, for example, is, so what happens if I only want to look at particular deals that are above 7K? So I can use a rectangular selection to quickly highlight that area, release it, and that's going to pass out a filter. Now, if you look at this just purely from a visual perspective, right? Sure, this gives me some additional context, but I want to, for example, know also what are going to be the deals underneath it. So for this one, I can also, for example, use different other capabilities of Power BI, and I just switch to a different view using the same scatter plot, which allows me to focus on that little subset, and then I have a table for individual deals and
Mm.
looking at different renewable groups and everything. So the main reason why this is going to be beneficial is because, like I said, it allows you to sort of have an overview of what's really happening there. So what deals are in what situation and what are we kind of looking into, but it still allows you to drill down and focus on those small little details. Now, the reason why this is also working very good is because one of the things that we try to limit with the scatter plot is the amount of information that you're seeing at a single point of entry, right? So when you, for example, open it up, the visual has a lot more information within it, but you don't need to see everything. So one of the properties that we have here, for example, is the ability to only showcase labels at a certain level of zoom. So for
Okay.
example, right now, if I'm looking at an overview, I mean, you can agree with me, right? If you're looking at this, you really don't want to see the individual company names because that's just going to be a complete hectic mess.
Yeah.
But if I want to focus on this part right here, I can zoom in and you can see at a certain zoom point, they start to appear. And this not only helps you with the performance of the visual, this also helps you to visually not have just overstimulation happening. Because imagine every single node, basically
Right.
data point, right, has a label underneath it. And well, you can see there's a lot of different deals happening at the same time.
Yeah.
So it's one of the principles that we try to implement not only for the scatter plot, but it's just more noticeable here, where we try to limit the amount of information that you're looking into at a single entry point. This is also happening in the donut charts, where we use the other slice, for example. It's happening also in other visuals. So there are a lot of different nuances that we take into account here. And of course, vice versa, right? You can use these visuals as a cross filter in different directions. So, for example, let's say I want to focus on Drew. I click on him, I drill down into different industries, but I don't want to select a particular one. I just again want to, for example, focus on the deals that are above 4K. Again, use a rectangular selection. Somebody says, hey, but I also want to grab these deals that are, overdue, even though they're not in 4K, but I just want to grab all of them. So just create another rectangular selection to basically extend what you already had selected. And this is
Okay.
one of the key points that we wanted to do is we wanted to give you interactions that allow you to basically slice and dice the information from different dimensions, not only from different visuals, but from the same one. So you have the ability of a rectangular selection. You can, of course, use, we all know this one, we've done this in other applications as well, hold down control and select multiple points, for example, right? You can't go wrong with that because people are used to it. But one interesting thing that we did here is we actually introduced the Lasso tool. So the Lasso tool is a free-form selection tool that allows you to select a particular range of things, not just a rectangular selection. And again, create one, extend the selection. So basically, you're in control of what you're seeing here. You define how exactly it's going to work. If you want to focus on the deals that are, still far away, you have this capability of just playing around with the data and the underlying sort of decisions that you have from this. So that's one part of it, of course.
This looks super intuitive, impressive, and some people may have seen some of these features around multiple products. But
Yeah.
what we're in particular, and Una's been instrumental in this as well, is ensuring that this scatter visual has all of those features loved and adored across multiple products, but all in one scatter visual as well, and that's what we're incredibly proud of. And what about when like the scatter visual from when I've seen it in multiple? We were looking at like regression lines and trend lines and other aspects of predictive analytics, or you know what I'm getting at. Just wondered how on this particular visual, this one would be kind of a little bit crazy to see a trend. You're looking at a big, but unless there is a trend with one particular client or deal case or employee that we need to actually look at for sure. But what else? How can we visualize trends and sort of like regression lines inside, or even like KPIs and metrics as well? How can we, maybe without using the cards on the top, how can we visualize KPIs within the scatter as well?
Yeah. So from my perspective, the way I would cover it is basically think about it like this, right? Every single visual has a lot of different information aspects that it can showcase it to. But you don't necessarily always want to use all of them because, again, you have to think about the level of sort of visual complexity that you're creating. You cannot sort of try to just showcase everything at the same time because people
Right.
are going to come back to you and say, well, I can't really don't know how to read that basically. But of
Yeah.
course, we do have the capabilities of thresholds and regression lines. So, for example, if I enable different thresholds, you can see we have one on the X axis, one on the Y axis. These are now based on the averages. So, whenever I, for example, change the context for a different salesperson or something, that also adapts based on what's currently visible in the canvas. So, you can have these. For these thresholds, what we also wanted to do or play around is to give you a capability of providing a bit more context with it. So, one of the capabilities that you can do here is not only have just a regular line, but you can also have an area. So, for example, you can say that the area is going to start from average, but it's going to go back to a zero, for example. So, you can quickly say I can highlight the whole segment. And if I want to select everything that's within it, again, rectangular selection, boom, you're done. You could, of course, do this with external slicers or different other tools, But what we're trying to do is to give you that one tool that allows you to basically pass the information outside and ask questions directly through the chart. So that's one of the cool things here. Same goes for the regression lines. So I'm just going to disable again. I don't want too much information on at the same time. So for example, like you said, right, if we enable a regression line straight away on all the data, well, very unique trend, right? But if you focus on smaller details, we can see an overall trend happening. So, for example, if we want to focus on a particular employee and a particular segment that we're in right now, and for the regression line, one thing that I think Una was the one that actually said that we want to be able to kind of have the level of complexity depending on the use case. And this is one of the reasons why one of the capabilities under the regression line is actually to kind of have a very scientific part of it visible, which is if you hover over the regression line by default, you can actually see all the variables that are happening or are being used within a calculation of that regression line. And of
Okay.
course, you know, like you said, not everybody, for example, needs all the levels of detail. So
Yeah.
you can, of course, quickly disable that as well. Where you just need a couple of these values, you can define what you see. But if you disable it, don't worry. People are not going to see that, sort of hectic approach of, okay, what does this mean now?
Yeah, absolutely. I love this. How about when we're looking at like multiple levels of, in a hierarchy as
Hmm.
well? If we're looking at another report. Thank you so much, Ivis. Appreciate that. You're well prepared. So
Hey,
take
man,
it
it's all
away.
thanks to the
What
team.
are we looking at here? You're doing a great job of explaining this, and I'm sure that everyone in the chat is we actually Janis Valberg, CEO and co-founder of ZoomCharts, is in the chat as well. So welcome to him. Thank you so much for joining us. He did mention a really cool thing that you can actually combine the rectangle selection and the lasso selection together as well, which is fantastic. And I think there was some examples within that previous that other people would probably look at and thought, actually, yeah, when you had the area going back to zero, and
Hmm.
then maybe you want to uh, lasso those top 4K overdues as well, then we can, yeah, as you said, we can do that. But yeah, take it. What was the other? We were talking about hierarchies as well, so maybe we can look at that.
Yep, absolutely. So, of course, as you know, the name already implies it for you, and this is what we always do in Zoom charts. There kind of needs to be a zoom effect, right? That's the whole thing of Zoom charts. So, of course, multiple levels of hierarchy is what we support.
Yeah,
And in order to enable that sort of behavior, it's quite simple. It's the same as in all of other visuals. You just simply click on the data point to drill down to the next level of the hierarchy. Now, the next part of this is, or the pain point that we were starting to realize is, right, even without the labels, there's still a lot of different points. And in some cases, the values are relatively close to each other, so it's hard to, for example, take a closer look at them unless you use, again, external slicers or anything like that. So, another feature that we added here is the ability to actually zoom into the canvas and look at particular areas. Because, for example, if I zoom out, you can see that these points are basically covering each other. But if I zoom in, I can see that there's multiple data points underneath there. So
great.
there's a lot of different aspects that we're taking into account whenever we're trying to sort of use the chart and make it as seamless as possible when it comes to the navigation aspect of it.
Yeah, super. And yeah, Carlos asked a very good question as well. Is that about the regression line with the scientific values and the data? As you move the cursor over the regression line, the values do change as well. And yeah, we'll
Yeah.
Yes.
share this as well. So yeah,
So let me just get on top of the regression line, right? Just making sure the tooltip is enabled. And of course, it's just not gonna. There we go. Thank you. But if I move around, you can. Well, it's kind of hard because I'm not making it to the X line perfectly.
but the values are visible.
Yeah, but they are changing. And of course, the main properties that are going to be changing are going to be the X and Y values, because the rest of it comes from the regression calculation itself. So, based on the degree of the regression, which is actually another thing that you can change in the regression line, you can define the degree of the regression. So, you don't have to do those calculations on your side. This is already implemented into the visual just directly through the formatting options.
Oh, great. And what about when we're looking at large data sets as well? How is ZoomCharts Scatter Pro Visual able to handle the large data that might not have been possible before?
I'll let Una answer that.
Yeah, so it's one of the things we also considered when we were developing this, whether to limit the number of data points we users want to show or not, and we decided to go without limitations. So
Love it.
however many data points you have, they're all going to be there. So we're not going to do any approximations. So just have fun with
Yeah.
it and display as many data points as you want.
And fantastic, great. We've solved that. Iris, what's one of your more favorite? Because one thing that a lot of people know about the Zoom charts visuals as well is not only its intuitiveness, but the either conditional formatting or just customization in general. And we do a few little cool, excuse me, tricks within our visuals as well. What's one of your favorite sort of customization features within the Scatter Pro?
I think my personal would be it's not a particular one feature, but it's a set of sort of ways and how we've decided that you're going to be able to control the items that you have within a scatter plot. So there's basically three different ways on how you can control the scatter plot, where basically the data points within it, right? You can, of course, go ahead, open up, for example, formatting options and control all of them simultaneously. That's if you don't want to split it up by condition or anything else. So you do this through the data points default. Then, of course, you have another way, which is in the fields, you can see we have marker colors, shapes, images, and so forth. So this is another way on how you can sort of control it directly through the data if you have these properties. So that's another thing that you can do here. And the sort of two additional ones, or actually, yeah, sort of combined but different, is going to be whenever you have a legend item. So in this case, I'm using the renewal group as the legend item. What I can do here is go into the formatting options and actually just style the particular group as such. So, for example, legend colors and legend shapes, just to kind of give a little bit of a distinction between them. But if you have a very specific use case, there's an extra layer that you can adapt right here, which is called data point groups, which is created in those specific cases. Let me just open up a different sample right here and create a scatter plot quickly from scratch. So let's go, for example, for frequency and monetary values, and then add segments as my categories. I don't need a lot of different data points. I just need a few of them, right? So what this now allows me to do is then afterwards define the groups, use the data point groups. There we go. And once I add the groups, I now have more control over individual groups. And I can say that these are going to be droplets, for example. The color mode is going to be fixed. So all the nodes that are fall into this category, they're going to be in the blue color. So there are different ways on how you can customize this. And I think the reason why this is my favorite part or sort of set of features is because it really allows you as a developer to define how exactly everything is going to look and feel.
I was about to say that, yeah, this is part of that storytelling. We use that word so often.
Yeah.
Maybe we need to stop that. But when you're developing the report and you have that question, why? Part of the customization can allow you to tell that story to whomever it is in the company that will be viewing the report as well. And of course, like as we're talking about these things, you're probably thinking of ideas or even questions as well. And as I mentioned, we do have a Q&A, but please, you can write them in to the chat now. We will go through them. If we're looking at something right away, I might just interrupt Una and Ivis, unfortunately, and ask them to share the quick tip. But we can also answer things later as well. And of course,
Absolutely.
if we don't have time, then I think one of the main things is that there is so much possibility and opportunity within Scatter Pro and in the multiple visuals that we have as well. If you haven't checked out Zoom Charts at all, then please go to our website. But I would also just like to say as well is that I love to connect with people. Ivis and Una also love to connect with people. We're a very people focused and friendly business as well. So I would love to get on a call as well, and Ivis and I can show you through not only the scatter but the others as well. So this is just a quick little thing, like whilst Ivis is setting something up, just to say we'd love to connect as well. Please add me on LinkedIn. You can reach me at. In fact, I got a little slide for you as well. Whilst we're looking at Lee.Chapman at zoomcharts.com with a very old photo of me. when I first started at ZoomCharts. But yeah, you're more than welcome to be joining me as well, and I'll let Ivis take it from here.
I'm just playing around in the background, so something's
I
going
know
on
you're so excited. I
here.
know you're so excited about these things as well. But
Oh,
yeah,
I
but
absolutely am.
as Ivis also mentioned as well, we built one of the reports. It's a stripped down version of the report, but we also help businesses and companies grow by developing reports as well. And so we've been working with multiple industries and companies around the globe to not only give them the visualizations that allow for their intuitive use across the company as well, but also share and develop the reports themselves that are then spread out to the company as well. So I would love to be able to talk to you about that as well.
Absolutely. I think one thing that I'm personally kind of curious about is I know me and Una basically talk every single day whenever we're building a product or anything, right? But what's your favorite feature from the scatter plot?
Oh no.
Okay, I would say the ability that we have these shapes, not just the sort of square ones, but we can also create ellipses. I really think that's a really, really cool feature here because, I mean, you don't always need, specific lines and corners. Sometimes when you
Mhm.
create these, yeah,
Yeah. Here we go.
yeah.
Just
So,
enlarging the screen so that people can see how Iris does it so quickly because this is what he does for his breakfast, and an egg as well is or an ellipsis, as we said. But yeah, carry on talking, Minu, about what we're looking at here, and why does this
yeah,
matter as
yeah,
well?
yeah. And this is again, it comes back to the context, right? You can create exactly the context you need for your data. So, and actually, for my own reports, I have combined multiple ellipses. So you kind of have, in the middle, the hottest target, for example, and then you can have sort of a less shaded area around that as something less hot. And so that's a great example. And I think we have
Yeah.
yeah, you can create something like that as well.
Yeah, we've got a few comments as well talking about shading, area shading, and yeah, the shapes as well. So people, and I think a lot, we our fantastic customer success team as well have been sharing this already with our clients, and they've been really impressed with the area shadings and the customization and functionality of it as well. Um, yeah, are there any questions in the chat? Because we're probably I think we probably should be wrapping up sometime soon for those that are staying with us. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. If you've got any questions at all, then you're more than welcome to be asking them in the chat. We will get to a Q&A. If you're a little bit shy, not a problem. You can reach out to me personally as well on LinkedIn. Looking forward to having the conversation with you there. But maybe are we allowed to talk about maybe what's coming up next? Whilst we're waiting for the comments, but are we allowed to talk about what's coming up next? I know that we've got
I
Yanis
think so.
in the being recorded as well. But yeah,
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think so. Uh, it's a logical step to continue this storytelling. We start to be scatter. I think very soon we will be able to release bubble chart as well that will follow the same interactions, the same rich capabilities all in one visual, but we'll add this extra dimension to the data analysis and again to decision making. So stay tuned for that pretty soon. It's going to be available definitely for beta and then in app stores as well.
you heard it here, everybody. Bubble chart is coming as well. One of the questions that we have is how does licensing work? Licensing works a per user per month basis on zoomcharts.com/pricing. You can look at our pricing there. We do have a per visual price. Maybe Ibis, you can actually just throw it up on the screen if you have Chrome or whatever browser you're using. Um,
Absolutely. Give me a second.
Thank you so much. But it's either a per visual license, but we also have a bundle of every Zoom chart visual absolutely available on the market right now for $2.99 per user per month. Absolutely worth it. We'll be looking at the price of a coffee.
I mean, it's even cheaper to be fair.
Is it? That is true, exactly. And I get, and you could probably tell from the excitement of all of us, we actually prefer eating data than drinking coffee at ZoomCharts as well. So, um, so drill through capabilities with the chart. That is one question that we also have as well. In fact, I'll throw up the questions and answer thing. I guess we've entered this realm right now. But Iris,
Absolutely.
yeah, if you can share, I mean, actually, I can just flick your screen up as well.
So let
But
me
we
do
do, of course,
this.
there is drill through and cross filtering functionalities as well. Ivis, yeah, show us what you're doing, and I'll enlarge it on the screen.
Absolutely. So what I'm doing basically is just creating a quick reference table and creating basically a drill through page, then going back to the original visual, which is on page one. There we go. Making sure I have the deal ID as one segment basically within a visual, and then I can do a drill through. That's not an issue whatsoever. Sure, you cannot do, of course, the drill through. If you, for example, create a rectangular selection, because then you have multiple entry points, but you're able to create a drill through if it's visible as an option. And you can also set it up for multiple levels of the drill down if you have a full hierarchy within a visual. So that's not going to be an issue. Same principle. As long as you see a drill through capability working out, you can also, of course, have a report page tooltip. So, for example, if I create a very quick one, doesn't matter what's exactly going to be within it. Let's say there's going to be an actual value and there's going to be, I don't know, a line of some sorts, which is going to have, let's say, a quick split, or actually even, I don't have a date. Stressing out. Let's go quickly
All
for
right.
waterfall. I don't have a map. Okay, let's just go with a card. Doesn't really matter what it is. But yeah, report page tooltip. Go back to the visual. For this one, first of all, you got to make sure that under tooltip settings you're using Power BI tooltip, because report page tooltip is part of their properties. We cannot say that it's ours. I mean, makes sense, right? But if you set it up, you can also use a report page tooltip. That's not going to be an issue.
Amazing. And of course, this visual, the Scatter Pro, is already available on the market as well. You can contact us through either the pricing page, directly on email, or you can go straight through to the app source as well if you just want to go and try it out. So, please, this has been an absolute pleasure. Any final remarks that you'd like to say, Ivis and Una, before we sign off?
Yeah, from my side, well, obviously we have released a product that we are proud of, but it never ends there, right? So we are very welcome to receive any feedback or any future feature suggestions. So anything that could help us take this even further. So please try it out and write some message about how you've liked it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And to sort of continue on that from my side, it would be, you can definitely bet that this is not all we want to do with the scatter plot. This is just the beginning, right? There's a
Okay.
lot more features, there's a lot more capabilities that, well, we want to make sure that the product is out there as well, so you can start playing around with it. Because one of the primary points we do here as well is we don't want to release features just because we can. We can do a lot of interesting things, but if we don't see the value, if we don't see that this is not something that the customers need, well, we're not going to be working on it. So it's very important for you guys to also tell us if there is anything that you're missing, if you want something to work slightly differently, if there are any ideas, just let us know about it. Because if we know about those things, we can discuss it with the team and figure out how to do it, when to do it, and so forth. If you don't tell us about the things that you are missing, right, well, then we kind of have to just kind of float around the community, try to understand from the market what's missing and so forth. But
Yeah.
the best source of this is you guys.
Yeah.
You tell us what you're missing, what you're looking most to kind of have it in a visual. Because, like I said, we could add 100 more features, but if you don't need any of them, then why are we wasting our time doing that? Quite
Yeah.
simple.
Agreed, agreed. And yeah, so we've got a very, very responsive support team, 24/7 support team, actually,
Yep.
which is fantastic. It's the customer success team for all the clients as well. A huge, huge asset in our company as well that does a fantastic job delivering the visuals and the reports to our clients as well. Really appreciate that everybody's been attending. You will receive a recording of this as well. If you haven't actually entered in your email address on our webinar page, on zoomcharts.com /en/webinars, then please go to that page. If not, you can reach out to me on LinkedIn and I'll personally send you that. One thing that I actually forgot to mention is the visuals, like the report that you shared that had the area thresholds, not thresholds, but the area inside. We can give that away as a free template that people can actually get started with as a .pbix file. So if you'd like that, please sign up. We'll send that to everybody that's attended and also said that they would attend. And also, if you reach out to me on LinkedIn as well, I'll personally send that to you as well. But thank you so much, Ivis, and it's been an absolute pleasure. We'll continue the celebrations now that the scatter has been launched officially, publicly to the world. I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much, everybody, for attending. Take care.
Take care, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.